You feel it before you decide to do it. A small itch in your hand. Your thumb moves toward your pocket before your mind even catches up. 3 seconds later, you're scrolling and you don't remember choosing to. Most people call this addiction, weak willpower, a flaw in your character. But the real answer is far stranger, and it has almost nothing to do with the phone itself. It has to do with a circuit in your brain that is hundreds of thousands of years older than glass screens and notification bells. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. The problem is what it's being asked to do it to. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran a series of experiments on pigeons in a box. He gave them a lever. Sometimes pressing it produced food, sometimes it didn't. He varied the timing so the birds never knew exactly when the reward would come. What happened next surprised even him. The pigeons didn't press the lever occasionally, the way they did when food came every single time. They pressed it constantly, frantically, far more than they would have if the reward had been guaranteed. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it turned out to be the single most powerful pattern of behavior he ever produced in a lab. Not certainty, uncertainty. The not knowing was the hook. Why would a brain be wired to chase something harder when the outcome is unpredictable? The answer goes back further than any laboratory. For most of human history, your ancestors lived as foragers. Food wasn't delivered on a schedule. It was hidden, scattered, and unpredictable. A berry bush might be full one week and empty the next. A hunt might succeed or fail for reasons no one could control. The brain that survived best wasn't the one that gave up after a few failed searches. It was the one that kept checking, kept looking, kept turning over the next leaf, the next ridge, the next patch of forest, because the next try might be the one that paid off. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherer groups like the Hadza of Tanzania have documented exactly this pattern. Foraging trips often come back empty, but the foragers who quit early, who decided the search wasn't worth it, simply didn't pass on their genes as often as the ones who pushed on toward one more ridge, one more bush, one more chance. Persistence in the face of an unpredictable payoff wasn't a personality quirk. It was a survival strategy written into the species. That hunger for the next check is still sitting inside your skull. It never left. It simply ran out of forest to search. Consider how strange this would look from the outside. Imagine someone watching you from across a room, watching you reach for a small rectangle in your pocket every few minutes, unlock it, glance at it, and put it away again, only to repeat the exact same motion minutes later. To that observer, it might look almost ritualistic, compulsive, but from the inside, it doesn't feel like a ritual at all. It feels like checking, like there might be something there. And that feeling, that quiet sense of might, is the entire engine. Decades after Skinner's pigeons, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz studied the brains of monkeys and found something that explained why the uncertainty itself felt so good. He recorded individual dopamine neurons while the animals waited for a reward. He expected the dopamine spike to happen when the reward arrived. Instead, the bigger spike happened earlier during the anticipation, especially when the animal wasn't sure the reward was coming at all. The chemical reward wasn't really about getting something. It was about the gap right before you knew. Think about what that means for the object in your pocket. Every time you unlock your phone, you are not checking for certainty. You're checking for a maybe message, a maybe interesting post. Your brain doesn't release its biggest hit of dopamine when the notification appears. It releases it in the half second before you look. In that same gap, your ancestors felt crouched over an unopened shell or a quiet patch of brush. Did anything change? Or is it just looking? There's a second ancient circuit involved, and it has nothing to do with food at all. It has to do with other people. An anthropologist named Robin Dunbar spent years studying primate social groups and proposed something now called the social brain hypothesis. He noticed that for our primate relatives, social bonds weren't a luxury. They were survival infrastructure. Knowing who was an ally, who was a threat, who had shifted loyalty overnight could be the difference between protection and exile. Grooming, the slow physical act of picking through another primate's fur, wasn't just hygiene, it was social bookkeeping. It told you, in the real time, exactly where you stood in the group. Humans replaced grooming with conversation, gossip, and glances across a room, but the underlying need never changed. You are still, at every moment, quietly tracking your position in your social world. Who likes you? Who's ignoring you? Who saw your message and didn't reply? Watch what happens the next time you send a message and see the little marker that tells you it's been read. If a reply doesn't come within a few minutes, something in you tightens just slightly. That tightening isn't really about the message, it's a status check. The same kind a primate ancestor ran every time it caught itself sitting alone at the edge of the group while everyone else groomed in pairs. A like, a reply, a follow. None of these are modern inventions of feeling. They're ancient signals of belonging, simply rerouted through glass and Wi-Fi. Your phone didn't invent this hunger, it just gave it an always-on feed. Every notification is a tiny grooming session your brain can't resist checking because for nearly all of human history, not knowing your social standing could get you killed. There's a third layer underneath both of these, older than food and older than gossip, or it's vigilance. Your ancestors lived in a world full of predators, rival groups, and sudden threats, and the nervous systems that survived were the ones tuned to notice small changes fast. A rustle in the grass, a shift in the wind, a silence where there used to be birdsong. Missing a real threat could mean death, so the brain evolved to treat uncertainty itself as something worth investigating immediately, just in case. That ancient alarm system doesn't know the difference between a predator in the brush and a phone buzzing on a table. Both register the same way, as an unresolved signal that demands attention right now. That's why an unread email sitting in your inbox can feel almost physically uncomfortable, the same low hum of unfinished business your ancestors felt when they heard a noise they couldn't yet identify. You can't fully relax until you've checked, until the unknown becomes known. Even if what's behind it turns out to be nothing at all, that same wiring now fires when your screen lights up in your peripheral vision. You don't know yet if it's nothing or something. And not knowing, to a brain built for the savannah, has never once felt like a neutral feeling. Here's the counterintuitive twist most people miss. The apps in your pocket were not designed by accident to feel this way. Teams of researchers and designers studied exactly these mechanisms: the variable reward, the anticipation spike, the social status check, the threat scanning reflex, and built interfaces specifically engineered to trigger them as often as possible. The pull to refresh gesture mimics a slot machine lever. The notification badge mimics an unanswered social signal. The infinite scroll mimics a forest that never runs out of branches to search. None of this is a coincidence. It is ancient hardware being deliberately expertly exploited by modern software, often by people who have studied the same research you're hearing right now. So when you feel that itch in your hand, you're not weak. You're running a 400,000-year-old foraging algorithm in an environment built to never let it rest. There is no berry bush that empties out. There's no grooming session that ends. There's no rustle in the grass that resolves into safety. There's only an infinite scroll engineered by people who understand your dopamine system better than you do. Does this mean you're powerless against it? Not exactly. Skinner's pigeons couldn't understand the lever they were pulling. You can. Understanding the mechanism is the one advantage your ancestors never had, and it's the only real edge you have over an algorithm built to use your own instincts against you. The uncertainty that hooks you only works as long as it stays invisible. Once you can see the variable reward for what it is, the spell weakens. Just slightly. Every single time. Try this the next time you feel your thumb drift toward your pocket. Pause for 1 second before you unlock the screen. Notice the anticipation itself, that small flicker of maybe. That feeling is not to information about the world. It's a 400,000-year-old prediction error firing in a context it was never built for. You are not missing something urgent. You're feeling hungry for a forest that no longer exists. Notice, too, how the feeling fades the instant you actually look. The post wasn't that interesting. The message wasn't that important. The anticipation almost always outweighs the payoff. Just like it did for Schultz's monkeys. Just like it did for Skinner's pigeons pressing a lever that gave them nothing most of the time. The gap was always the point. The reward was almost beside it. This is why simply deleting an app rarely works for long, and why willpower alone tends to fail. You're not fighting a habit. You're fighting 400,000 years of selection pressure that rewarded exactly the behavior you're now trying to suppress. The people who tell you to just put the phone down are underestimating what they're asking. They're asking you to override a survival instinct using a part of the brain that evolved millions of years after the instinct did. What actually works slowly is not suppression, it's recognition. Naming the gap, catching the half second of maybe before it pulls your hand forward, and simply letting it pass without obeying it. Each time you do, the circuit gets a tiny bit weaker. The same way any signal weakens once the brain learns it doesn't reliably predict a reward. Your ancestors checked the next branch, the next ridge, the next quiet sound in the grass because survival depended on never stopping the search. You check your phone for the same reason, even though nothing out there is actually trying to kill you anymore and nothing in there is actually feeding you. The hand still moves first. The mind still catches up late. In the gap between the two is where an entire industry has learned to live. That's not a flaw in you. It's the oldest part of you, doing exactly what kept your ancestors alive, now aimed at a glowing rectangle that never runs out of branches to check. Likes this video and subscribe for more videos. See you later.